call the council meeting to order. Aaron, you can sit down. Welcome to all the throngs of people. All right, I will call the meeting to order. A motion to reconvene the open meeting. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Motion to adopt the minutes of the open council meeting held on January 30th, 2017. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to adopt the minutes of the public hearing zoning held on January the 31st, 2017. Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. A motion to resolve into a committee of the whole. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And the reports are from the Executive Committee of Council. Councillor Dhaliwal, please. Oh, well, we're without Councillor Dhaliwal. He was here. I know he was here. We just called your committee, Councillor Dhaliwal.
Sorry about this.
All right, we're on item A, and that's the grant applications.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me about the delay. So can let me get myself oriented here. On behalf of the Executive Committee, Your Worship, I'd like to make the following motions. The first one is 17.01 is Burnaby Hospice Society. And the recommendation is that an in-kind grant up to the amount of $1,500 be awarded to the Burnaby Hospice Society for the 15th annual hike for Hospice Burnaby to be held on May 7, 2017 at Central Park.
It's been moved and seconded. Yes, Councillor McDonnell?
It was in kind.
Yeah, in kind.
Yeah, because it doesn't say it in the main motion.
It does. It says that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
In kind, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, question's been called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. You're late, you get a rough ride.
Second item, Your Worship, 17.2 is the Society to End Homelessness in Burnaby. That recommendation is that an in-kind grant of $520 be awarded to the Society to End Homelessness in Burnaby for the coldest night of the year walk to be held on February 25th, 2017.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Next item is Bullying Canada, Inc., Your Worship. The recommendation is that this grant request be denied.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Item number 17.04, Mosscrop Secondary School. Recommendation is that a grant in the amount of $200 be awarded to Mosscrop Secondary School in support of the Dry Grad event.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Next item is 17.05, Sandra's Closet, LLC. Recommendation is that this grant request be denied.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Item number 17.06, Stony Creek Environment Committee. Recommendation is that a grant in the amount of $500 be awarded to the Stony Creek Environment Committee for a bee pollinator awareness project in 2017.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Item number 17.07, Rotary Club of Burnaby, Metrotown. Recommendation is that an in-kind grant of $2,500 be awarded to the Rotary Club of Burnaby Metrotown for the 2017 Wine, Food, Music Festival to be held on April 22nd, 2017 at the Nikkei National Museum and Cultural Center.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Item number 17.08, Burnaby Community Services. Recommendation is that a grant in the amount of $28,000 be awarded to Burnaby Community Services for core programs and publications in 2017.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Item number 17.09, Burnaby Community Services. Recommendation is that an in-kind grant up to the amount of $33,875 be awarded to Burnaby Community Services for various publication in 2017.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you, Councillor Dollywell. The next report is also from the Executive Committee, item 3.B.
Yeah, thank you. It's first item is, your worship, is Scandinavian Cultural Society, and the recommendation is that a Festivals Burnaby Grant neighborhood event in the amount of $2,000 be awarded to the Scandinavian Cultural Society for the Leaf Erickson Day Festival to be held on September 30th, 2017 to October 1st at the Scandinavian Culture Center.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Next item is South Burnaby Lawn Bowls Club. Your worship, recommendation is that a Festival Burnaby Grant neighborhood event in the amount of $2,400 be awarded to the South Burnaby Lawn Bowls Club for the centennial celebrations to be held to February to July 2017 at the clubhouse at Kingsway and Inman.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Next item is, your worship, a Vancouver Cantonese Opera. Recommendation is that a Festival Burnaby Grant small-scale event in the amount of $3,500 be awarded to the Vancouver Cantonese Opera for the performance of the Reunion of a White Hare to be held on July 22nd, 2017 at the Michael J. Fox Theatre.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Next item is Ocean Canada, Inc. It's a Carrickton Festival. Recommendation is that this grant request be denied.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
That's it, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dollywell. And item 3.C is Financial Management Committee. Councillor Johnson.
If I would move the recommendation. This report, your worship, is from staff. It's our annual review of the city's investments, both on their soundness and the annual return. For 2016, the city was able to yield a return of 3.62% on our investments, thanks to our hard work by our finance staff. Pretty good annual rate of return in relation to what I'm sure most of us are getting on our RSPs and other investments. That actually yielded the city roughly $44 million in annual earnings that will be then put back into the reserves and or to keep down the tax return.
Thank you. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Next, Your Worship, regarding the 2017 BC Homeowner Grant Program, I would move the recommendation be received for information purposes. Your Worship, really quick report. Council will remember back in April of 2016, the Financial Management Committee, through Council, sent a request to the Union of BC Municipalities to petition the Minister of Finance to undertake a provincial review of the homeowner grant in order to make it more equitable for those of us living in the Lower Mainland. The province did announce late last month that they would be increasing the threshold to $1.7 million from 1.2, I believe it was, increasing the grant threshold, which would supposedly reduce the number of people that were no longer eligible because of the increased assessments in getting the grant. The report that's before us, our staff looked at the numbers in relation to the announcement by the province, and it will make marginal difference in the city of Burnaby. I believe the province is targeting a 90% recovery of eligibility for the grant at a full grant, and in Metro Vancouver, it's only 83% of homes that will actually still be able to attain it with this enhanced grant, enhanced threshold, and in Burnaby, roughly 71%. So there's still a lot of people that are going to find that when they get their tax notice, the province has taken away a good portion of their homeowners grant. I don't know what to say other than that. The report that's before us is pretty clear in indicating that we have actually looked at the numbers. We've actually lobbied the province, but they still are unable to address a system that doesn't favor those people living outside of Metro Vancouver. Those of us that live in Metro Vancouver, which pay the bulk of the taxes, are getting the worst end of the deal on this one.
Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you. Thank you to the staff for this report, Your Worship. It is pretty well a carry on from what was last year. We see a reduction of properties that are eligible, a number of properties that are eligible for a homeowner grant in 2017 compared to what was in 2016, and then before that, 2015. Every year over the last, I guess, 5 years, if you look at it, the percentage has consistently dropped from 92% to 77.8%. That is a significant drop within the city of Burnaby, the properties that are eligible for full grant. This program, this homeowners grant program, continues to be very spotty throughout the province, particularly over the last 5 years. Lower Mainland has consistently suffered compared with the rest of the province. I think it continues to be where a lot of tax dollars are collected for schools. It continues to service for the rest of the province in terms of because the homeowner grant doesn't apply as much here as it applies outside the Lower Mainland. I think our suggestion from this council last year to the province and through UBCM was a full review, nothing short of just a cursory look that they do every year just prior to when the bills are just about to go out, and just thinking with the threshold isn't good enough. What needs to be done is a thorough review of which makes it fair and even right through the province, which means that most likely, at least if not at the city level, but at least at the regional district level, there need to be a separate threshold if you want to be fair. But the fairness comes in when people across the province are treated the same way. If the province intends to have a 91%, which by the way is a drop from what when originally started, of the target people to attend, then they need to be living up to that commitment for every taxpayer, every property taxpayer in the province. But that's really not the case. I'm certain many people in this city, in this district, in our city, and in Metro Town would rather see their assessment value in line with whenever they're going to sell sell their home, rather than each year, which goes up and down, mostly up, which punishes them for having to live in this part of the province. So the report doesn't say that, but perhaps sometime when we get the opportunity, we need to repeat our ask of the government to say, either scratch this program completely or make it fair. Find some other way to really support affordability in Metro Vancouver. This is not adding anything to the affordability. This is not helping a whole lot, but it is punishing certainly those who are on fixed income, Your Worship. Perhaps someday, maybe through the Community Development Committee, once we had a chance to really digest all this, a motion should come forward, which is then submitted to UBCM again through Metro, perhaps working with Metro, that there is a common front to say, yeah, we are really looking forward to some relief for people who live in Lower Mainland. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Dhaliwal. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, and thank you to staff for bringing forward this report again for us this year. And I think what's interesting is it shows the continual downward trend towards the number of properties in our city, and I'm assuming that would be the same for others in the Lower Mainland, relative to the rest of the province, even when the province makes the huge adjustment in the thresholds from where you don't lose the grant anymore. I can't remember, was it last summer or the one before when we had CTV here in council talking to us about this situation, and I had found that house on the Pinot Noir Drive in West Kelowna. So I looked up how that house is doing relative to the property grants again, and I think it was 2 years ago, but whenever it was, that house was valued at $1,400,000, and it had just about lost all its property grant. But thanks to the northern and rural bonus, it still got a little bit of a property grant, whereas a similar, like exact same valued house in Burnaby had lost all the grant. The house in Kelowna, the house is worth $1 million. The land is worth $400,000, where in Burnaby, the exact opposite. The land is worth $1 million and the house is worth $400,000. Well, everyone in council will be pleased to know that the house on Pinot Noir Drive will now get the full property grant back. Because even though they lost it 2 years ago, thanks to the government increasing the grant by $400,000 and the fact that their assessment in Kelowna didn't go up by 40% like everyone's around this table did, they get their full grant back. So there's someone living in a mansion overlooking the lake in West Kelowna, and they're going to get their full property tax grant, whereas someone who's living in a modest home in this city and is a senior on a fixed income whose property went up by 40% will lose their property tax grant. So it just shows you the total unfairness of the system. And when you put things province-wide without taking into consideration the impact of different regional disparities, that's what you end up with: a flat tax, a flat grant program, and also everybody's forgotten that the grant itself, the basic grant, hasn't increased in 20 years. So, or excuse me, 17 years. So what about that? There's so many things wrong with this whole system at so many levels. I appreciate Councillor Dollywall commenting in the press, and they already have picked up this report in the Burnaby Now, and I appreciated his remarks in there about it. I hope that when the report that Metro Vancouver is working on, which we'll talk about, not just the homeowner portion of it, but the impact that these assessments are having on small business and light industry and things in the region also will maybe generate some additional interest of the kind of thing that Councillor Dolly was talking about, because I've been reading about the huge increase in assessed values in Vancouver for some industrial properties where they're just driving business right out of the city. And I would, maybe arising from this, Your Worship, ask for our staff to comment back to us if we have information, if the same thing is happening here, if there's been, because that's going to be a tremendous impact. So it's not just about residential homeowners, it's also about industrial and business properties where the taxes are getting to the point where small businesses can't pay the rent anymore. And all these houses closing, or businesses closing down on Denman Street and things, local small businesses, because the taxes are more than the rent because the assessments are so high. So it's a system that is all gone out of whack, and no one they want to tinkle around with the edges, but they don't seem to want to grapple with the full extent of the impact that it's having. And I think it needs to be done, and it needs the collective of all the cities in the region to step forward and say, no, there has to be a better way, and to work together to find that.
Well, I can tell you from my point of view, there should be a full public inquiry into exactly how these programs are operating, whether or not they're equitable across the province, and equity across the province is very important. and from community to community. You know, when you look at the house that you were talking about on, Noir Drive,
Hard drive, yes.
I mean, not only do they get the full homeowner grant in a $1 million house on a $400,000 piece of property, but they also get what is euphemistically called a northern and rural grant
Benefit.
directly out of the carbon tax for another $200. So you've got a system in which you're being rewarded in Kelowna with a extension of the assessment, and you're giving an additional $200 out of the carbon tax in an area where I doubt that Kelowna would want to be called either northern or rural. It is, in fact, a city, and a dynamic city that has a great many assets of its own, and certainly should not be given any kind of stigma as being outside of the normal urban centers. And so I find it unbelievable that you could make a comparison adversely between, for instance, Saanich and Kelowna in regard to whether you should be receiving additional grant monies for living in those locations. In fact, probably more persuasive if you live on the island and you have to take a ferry to get anywhere, that it's more justifiable that you would be getting an additional grant. I'm surprised that people are not reacting more strongly to this with the provincial government, though. They seem to get away with it. And if it wasn't for cities like ours constantly beating this drum, because it certainly isn't happening in other municipalities, I don't think any attention would be paid to it at all. So, really, it's a question of an unfair assessment that is taking away the homeowner grant from a significant amount of people in our community and continuing to award it to homes that are certainly valued much higher as far as the residential part of the home is concerned in other parts of the province. And it is fundamentally unfair to residents here. They should be looking at, if the target is 91%, they should be looking at 91% of the homes in any individual region being able to claim the homeowner's grant. And as you said, is the homeowner's grant, it hasn't even remotely kept up to inflation. So each year we lose ground on the homeowner's grant. And additionally, when you look at the evaluation of properties here, we end up on the school taxes subsidizing the entire rest of the province. It's ridiculous. Not only that, but they're making it impossible for businesses here to be able to prosper, because those businesses are receiving higher and higher assessments. In particular, the small businesses still have to pay school taxes, while the large industrial businesses that are more capable of making those payments are in fact given a free ride on school taxes. So, this just is a system that is fraught with unfairness, and it needs to be reviewed, and we need to find a system that's much fairer for all of the property owners, whether it's industrial, commercial, or residential homeowners across the province. We have to have a much fairer system, and I agree. I appreciate the work that you've done and that the Finance Committee has done and that our staff has done, but I wish there were more cities across the region that were taking this issue up with more passion, because I think it should be an election issue. I think it should be something that the province has to answer for in regard to this election. Let me make it perfectly clear for those who don't understand it, is that the provincial government, the Liberal government, knows that their stronghold is in rural British Columbia, and that by giving more to rural British Columbia, they're able to maintain those votes in those areas. Fact is, their strength isn't in the Lower Mainland or in the Capital Regional District, and as a result, those two areas are punished in regard to the assessment and in regard to grants. That's the game that's being played, and people here have to understand it, and they have to be prepared to call this government into question for having done that and putting in a policy that just continues to perpetuate an unfair system. It's wrong, and people need to know it.
If I can add one more thing to the list, Your Worship, we have a very strong ally now in the mayor of Belterra. it may not seem like much, but once you get Ralph's attention, Mayor Drew is now on this hobby horse to a greater extent even than myself, because I showed him one day that a house of exactly the same value in Lions Bay as in Belcarra, so again a $1.4 million house. Well, the house in Lions Bay, the school tax portion of their tax assessment, because every school district has a different mill rate set, right? The school tax for the house in Lions Bay at $1.4 million pays $1,100 in school tax. The $1.4 million house in Belcarra pays $1,700 in school tax. Now you tell me how that works. That's more than 50% higher for the same value house in the same region. And yet the school tax is 50% higher, more than 50% higher in Belcarra, and it's about 30% higher in Burnaby than it is in Lions Bay. So how they set those numbers and how they decide them is a mystery. And only the province knows what little factors they put in on every occasion. So I'm hoping the consultant's report that Metro Vancouver is getting will make that clear as, spring water, but I'm not sure that it will. But anyway, Mayor Drew's on our side now, so we're gradually recruiting a few people to say that something's really wrong.
Belcarra might not have been exactly the muscle we needed, but
Wow.
I'll take support wherever we can
We'll
find
take it where we can get it.
Yeah, we need support wherever we can find it. Maybe this is a job that the municipal auditor general should look at. I mean, it would be a good thing for the municipal auditor general, instead of being perceived as someone who's supposed to come into municipalities and tell us what we're doing wrong, actually went in and examined a part of the system where we're being treated unfairly and it's inequitable among municipalities, and try to straighten that process out, because that would be a very useful job. And the real impact would be in a reduction of property taxes for people here in the Lower Mainland,
Yep.
who are, in my view, being treated in a high-handed way. Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the point was brought out that nobody else is up in arms, but I think a lot of it is the citizens are too busy working two jobs trying to survive. They don't pay attention to it. And as you mentioned, like Lions Bay, well, what about Whistler? What about Sunshine Coast, which is, right over there? Anything outside of the greater Victoria region or anything outside of Metro Vancouver, they get it. And why do they get it out of the carbon tax? I mean, the carbon tax was supposed to be there to stop the pollution and that. Well, I think when you get out in those areas, there's a lot less pollution there than there is in Metro Vancouver, just because of the traffic, because of the population size and everything else. That's where, if you're going to take money out of the carbon tax to finance something, you should be financing the transit and stuff like this, instead of saying, that's okay, put it on your property tax, because we're the ones who wear it. And the average taxpayer doesn't sit there and analyze their bill where the money's going. They just say, the city's charging me this much more. But when we worked it out, it was about 51% of what we tax is what we get. And 49% goes to other orders of government. Whether it's the school board, whether it's Metro Vancouver, whether it's transit, all these other places. So, the average person doesn't pay attention to politics like we do. We're in this game. But, and they just don't understand it, and they don't have the time. They're just, like I say, most of them are working two jobs. The middle class is slowly eroding, that it won't be there. If something doesn't change in the next 20 years, you'll have a two-class system like a lot of these third world countries. And it's an unfortunate thing that a place like Canada, we can be talking like that, but that's a fact. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for the report from the Financial Management Committee. And you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 3.E, Councillor Johnson.
Edmonds Community Center installation of HVAC unit, and I would move the recommendation for information purposes. Your Worship, the Community Center, Edmonds Community Center, officially opened in 2013. was built to LEED's energy standards in order to be environmentally sustainable. But being that it's been in operation for 3 years, staff have determined that the cooling system in the summer isn't quite bringing the building down to a temperature that's conducive for the recreation activities that are happening in the facility. I guess it's partly body heat, partly the summer coming through the glass of the building. The report that's before us is initiating an HVAC study so that we can look at adding an additional HVAC unit to the roof of the building in order to bring the summer temperature down to a usable level for its users.
All right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Thank you.
The next reports are from the Planning and Development Committee. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Worship. The first report has to do with an R12 area rezoning, and the recommendation is that Council authorize the preparation of a rezoning bylaw to rezone 7335 to 7359 14th Avenue on the north side, as referred to in Schedule A, from R5 residential to R12 residential district, and that a bylaw be advanced to first reading on 2017 February 6th, and to public hearing on 2017 February 28th at 7 p.m., and that a copy of this report be sent to the owners and residents in the petition and consultation area. And I so move.
Second.
And
Seconded.
basically, Your Worship, there was 80% of those surveyed were in support of the rezoning process, so according to our policy, it will go forward in the manner reported.
Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
The next one is also an R12 area rezoning request, and the recommendation is that Council not advance the request for R5 to R12S area rezoning for 4036 to 4098 Kincaid Street on the south side, and that a copy of this report be sent to the property owners and residents in the petition and consultation area.
Second the motion.
And, Your Worship, this proposal did not receive the 50% required from the properties in the subject area, so it will not proceed.
Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
The next report from the committee, Worship, is proposed zoning bylaw text amendments for January 2017, and I would move the recommendations contained in the report.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor.
These are mostly housekeeping amendments, Your Worship, just for council's benefit and the public. It's just catching up with the building code and a few little other things that have come up lately.
Okay. Right. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. The next report is from the Social Planning Committee. Councillor Balco is not here tonight. He is ill. Just for the record, he is continuing to receive treatment, and we send him our very best as he goes through treatment. And Vice Chair Councillor Kang will present the reports.
Thank you, Worship. This report is from the Social Planning Committee, and the subject is Local Government Awareness Week for 2017. I move the recommendation that Council approve the Council's involvement in Local Government Awareness Week 2017 as outlined in Section 2.2 of this report.
Second.
Your Worship, Local Government Awareness Week is an annual UBCM initiative, and it's usually held in May to educate the public about the roles and responsibilities of local government and to encourage public participation in local government process. To support this initiative, and just to name a few, Burnaby City Hall is open late on Thursdays in order to better serve the public. Public tours of city halls are offered to the general public, and as well as many elementary school students visit City Hall as well and visit Your Worship and get to know the civic government. Last year, there were various events that supported the public engagement for Local Government Awareness Week. We had a city proclamation, encouraged the public to explore the new heritage website, and City Hall held a joint open house with RCMP in September. With council support, this would be the 7th annual celebration of Local Government Awareness Week in Burnaby. This meaningful annual event also supports our social sustainable strategy in 2 of the 7 strategic priorities, which are getting involved and learning for life. The proposed theme this year is celebrating and connecting Burnaby. This theme would promote local government awareness and opportunities to be engaged in civic life through the city's public event and online resources. As 2017 marks the Burnaby's 125th birthday, Local Government Awareness Week and its activities can be coordinated to highlight the 125th birthday activities. So for the approval of council tonight here, the proposed activities for this year are the city proclamation, drawing contests for school-aged children, civic awareness videos where you can explore and create short information videos to promote civic awareness. The city will be refreshing our Be Involved portal, bringing some exciting new updates. And we will be celebrating our 125th and 150th birthdays with events around our cities. Your Worship, you'll be happy to know that all these suggested activities will be undertaken with existing staff and budget resources. The dates for Local Government Awareness Week in 2017 has not yet been announced, although it is typically the 3rd week of May. So I look forward to seeing these events unfold. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you. I believe these are, for during that week, these are a number of activities. That's wonderful. I think we need to continue to increase awareness about what local governments do. It's my belief, Your Worship, I think there remains a bit of a mystery as to the services that we provide. A lot of people take it for granted, but what happens every morning when they wake up, there's water out of the tap every morning, just really good quality water comes. Same thing's taken away whenever they use it. We have the garbage picked up every week without fail. We provide them services when they need it, police, the RCMP, and not to mention other things. These are some of the big things I mentioned, but when you talk about parks and recreation, direct services we provide, roads, etc., the facilities, libraries, it's a lot of services. They don't come to the top of your head when you're not thinking, but if you put that in a concise pamphlet way, what the city does for them, I think a lot of people would be amazed. I'm certain most people think that it's the federal government or it's the provincial government that does all this work, and they continue to not understand what the cities do for about a dime that we get out of the money that they pay as taxes. Regrettably, to them, they pay property taxes once a year, and it's a big bill for them. But what they pay every week on the wages through other sales taxes, everything like that, is a lot more than what they pay to the local government. Yet, everybody seems to think that that property taxes are the one that are really dragging them behind. That's really putting a burden on them. Your Worship, I think we need to have something created, I guess, in terms of a display which gives all these services, and in fact is a part of like Info Burnaby type of literature that goes to every home, that what the local government does for the money that we get. And if you look at it, the average homeowner's bill is probably $4,000 on the average kind of thing. That's our share. Probably less than that is our share. Like when they pay the bill, much of that goes to the province as a school, revenue for school. But what we really get, I'd be surprised if every homeowner pays us $10 a week. $10 a week, what you get. It's not even per capita, it's per household. And that's a lot of services I mentioned. I don't think there's a whole lot of where I see we do not do any justice to ourselves for not getting low, because people seem to think the local governments are out of touch. they're spending a lot of money because that's what the media tells them. That's what CFIB tells them. That's what everybody else says. How municipalities are out of control. They've been spending so much money, Your Worship. I think one of the things we can do is perhaps next year or so trying to create that awareness at a larger scale that what local governments provide for a dime that we get. And I think that is one of the things we don't tell our story, a fiscal story, how success it is. And in fact, this is the only government that doesn't run deficit, the only government that is probably more secure than anywhere else, and yet, and create jobs and all those things, but no one really seems to appreciate. They don't even come out to vote for us, only about 25% turnout. They don't think it's important. So I think, Your Worship, I support all this. I think it's a nice time to really send information out, perhaps too late for this year, but perhaps create something a little bit more complex, which really goes out in the services that we provide for the money they pay. Thank you.
Yeah, or maybe what we should do is do what the provincial government does, is use taxpayers' money to put advertisements on the hockey games telling how wonderful they are. Apparently, it's okay to do that. Can you imagine if municipalities were spending tens of millions of dollars to put out ads telling people how great we are?
Face for the taxpayers who have difficulty affording their homes, and here you're watching our news hour and seeing a hockey game to say, well, guess what? And, you know, the partisan ads are for the same money that we paid. We can't afford to keep our taxes, can't pay for the property taxes, but they're spending on those things. This has got to be the worst treatment that the taxpayers can get at the hands of any government.
Well, you know, it's pretty good when you can just put out those ads saying, but we put a 15% on foreign property buyers. Of course, we're going to have to give it back now. But we did that, and you look at that and you say, the public seems okay with it when it's the provincial government doing it, when it's the federal government doing it, and municipal governments, we don't do those kind of things. We just consistently perform. Anyway, it's frustrating. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Next report, social planning.
Thank you, Worship. This report is from the Social Planning Committee. The subject is Burnaby Access Advisory Committee for 2017 work plan. I move the one recommendation that the committee request council to approve the proposed Burnaby Access Advisory Committee work plan as outlined in section 3.0 of this report. And I so move.
Second.
Seconded.
Your Worship, the Burnaby Access Advisory Committee is a committee that provides advice and direction to the Planning and Building Department on access and inclusion issues. It was established in 1988 and is made up of Burnaby residences and city department staff and Fraser Health Authority. And this committee meets bi-monthly. Since its establishment in 1988, the committee has pursued several initiatives directed towards the improvement of private and public services and facilities to better accommodate persons with disabilities. So this is also another example of what civic government does, is we look at accessibility to make sure that our citizens are included and are able to access our services and buildings. So examples include, and certainly not limited to, making recommendations to include requirements for designated parking spaces, installations of curb cuts and accessible bus stops at various intersections, and participation in Access Awareness Day and United Nations Day of Persons with Disabilities community events. Briefly, here is an overview of the 2016 activities. At Bonza Recreation Complex, there was a purchase of an aquatic wheelchair to enable access to the pool deck, change rooms, and showers. At Eileen Daily Leisure Pool, also Kensington Arena and Burnaby City Hall, there was an installation of automatic doors to the main entrance. At the McGill Library, there was an installation of automatic doors on family washroom. There was a celebration of Access Awareness Day at Edmonds Community School, where there were human books, and people were able to share accessibility from their own stories to kids. And a planned film night at Tommy Douglas Library. It will be rescheduled because of a snowstorm on that day. And committee continues to monitor the needs for curb cuts, audible pedestrian traffic signal, sidewalk improvements, street furniture, and other access improvements to city facilities. So tonight for council's adoption tonight, there are proposed 27 work plan. There are 11 points as written on this report. Most of it are inclusive of our accessibility and inclusion models that we have seen in our 2016. So, Your Worship, I'm very supportive of this report, and I thank the citizens and staff who have put their time to make our city a more welcoming, accessible, and inclusive community. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Moving on to the City Manager's report, item 1. And this is to obtain council approval for the assignment and/or extension of terms of 4 existing upland consent agreements. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 2. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the supply and delivery of garbage and yard waste containers. Councillor Calandino.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question to staff, probably the Director of Engineering or his replacement tonight. It's a large amount and a large number of toters. I'm just wondering, are we replacing all the toters, or are we replacing toters that are being requested for replacement and then switch over to other?
I think we're replacing the ones that are being requested to replace, because with the conversion to the 2-week program, 2-week pickup for garbage, there might be some that want to reassess the size of their toters, and so we anticipate some changeover, and this supply would help with that.
Okay, and the other question is, these toters are purchased from out of the city and out of the province?
I don't know where for sure, sorry.
Could we
Yes.
have a memo on that? Oh, yes, okay. Isn't there a supplier that's closer to home? This comes from the States, and given the exchange on the dollar, it must be rather expensive to purchase in the U.S. these days.
Yeah, I don't know that question. I can get back to you.
Yes,
Yes.
a memo.
Yeah.
The proponent that is being recommended here was the low bid, taking into consideration the foreign exchange rates, et cetera. So even in spite of that, they are still the lowest qualified bid.
Were there bidders in Canada? Do you know?
I do not know. There were 2 other bids, and this one was selected on the basis of their ability to supply.
Your Worship, I know that there is a supplier and maker in Burnaby that does make the exact same toters we do. In fact, they recycle our old ones. And perhaps staff should make contact with the local manufacturer and supplier and see whether they can match.
All of our requests would go out to Bid BC, where we would have this done very publicly,
Yes.
and we follow all of the rules in relation to making sure that every competitive bidder is going to have an opportunity to bid. I don't know if in this particular case they may have been busy, may not have looked at this as being a contract that they were competitive on, but why don't we get staff to simply give you a little bit more information about who the bidders were, whether there were any Canadian competitors, and then you can assess whether the company you know was actually bidding, or may contact them and ask why.
Not to belabor this, Your Worship, and not to wanting to be a President Trump, perhaps we should serve a little bit of his own medicine in certain deals we make.
You're not talking about a Buy Canada program, are you?
Would that hurt?
Oh my God, that would be like nationalistic. What about globalization? What about the opportunity to be globalized?
Well, NAFTA won't be anymore, so.
Well, we all know NAFTA only goes one way anyway, so. All right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 3, this is to obtain council approval for a contract increase of $700,000, including GST, to Crown Contracting Limited for the repair and maintenance of streetlights and traffic signals. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 4. This is 5676 Laurel Street and unopened portions of Fulwell Street and Laurel Street road rights of way, and this is authorization to forward the application to a public hearing on February 28th. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, carried. All right, a motion that we rise and report. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion the report of the committee be adopted. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Councillor Kang, you're going to be reading the bylaws. Right, do you want to do it now? Right, if you'll hold on, we're just going to correct an error on the agenda. It's not an error in your script, it's an error in the agenda. Madam Clerk, if you would.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is for the public to please note that there is a typo on the council agenda. Bylaws item G should read 13720 and not 13712. So that's 13720, item G. Thank you, Your Worship.
Right, and that's just being read into the record to ensure the correction was made in regard to our agenda. Now you can go on to first readings.
So for first reading, I move that bylaw number 13705, 13706, 13707, 13708, 13709, 13710, 13720, 13721 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For first, second, and third reading, I move that bylaw number 13712, 13713, 13714, 13715, 13716, 13717, 13718, 13719 be now introduced and read 3 times.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For second reading, I move that bylaw number 13684, 13702, 13703 be now read a second time.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For consideration and third reading, I move that bylaw number 13596 be now considered and read a third time.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For reconsideration and final adoption, I move that bylaw number 13570, 13711 be now reconsidered and finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk and the corporate secretary fixed thereto.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. So there you go. You're doing such a good job of reading the bylaws now, Councillor Kang, that I guess you want to move on to provincial government. Is there any new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Yeah, happy Family Day.